What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Ben on Sports. I apologize for the delay. This episode was supposed to go out last week, and then once the information was old, I updated again. I apologize for it getting out late. I'm not going to dwell too much on it, but it is finally here, and I still am going to do another one in early September, so I stay on the fairly monthly schedule. But this one is going to be the MLB trade deadline and some update at this point, not just a trade line deadline update. But with that being the main purpose, let's get into some of the biggest trades of the trade deadline. I've picked out 10 here that I really like, and or want to talk about at least. Maybe I don't like all of them, but Tarek Skubal to the Dodgers. Whenever you think the Dodgers are done loading up on the best players in the league, they go out and add another one. There's a lot of rumors about this one and how other offers may have been present, and the Tigers traded him before the deadline when they could have run up the price and all kinds of stuff. And maybe that's true. At the end of the day, it's the Dodgers farm system, which seems to always have a lot of top prospects. Picking up Tarek Skubal for a package that I think everybody can agree seems light, at least on paper, which is why it wouldn't be shocking to me if there was actually some better offers. There's some conspiracy theories that the Tigers maybe are one of the franchises that wants to implement a salary cap, and by making this trade, everybody would continue to side with the owners and make the Dodgers look like the big bad guys, or maybe it's just that because Tarek Skubal made it known he wanted to go to the Dodgers in free agency. People are like, well, why do we want to overpay for somebody that we have a zero chance at signing in free agency? At least if he said he's open everywhere, you could make yourself believe that you had a chance. But for whatever reason, none of that happened. Tarek Skubal goes to the Dodgers, and now the Dodgers have two starting rotations when healthy on their roster. They should have plenty of depth. I know at time of this recording they're not playing the best, but it's the Dodgers. You got to think they're going to be ready for the playoffs. A second trade for two franchises moving in opposite that were kind of had been close most of the season, but are no longer that close. Adley Rutschman traded from the Orioles to the Red Sox. The Orioles were in a position. In fact, recently they were only a game back of the wild card, and their pitching rotation has been solid, and they still decide to trade the face of their franchise because, well, there's a lot of talks that he wasn't going to re-sign in Baltimore, and why are more people going to want to sign in Baltimore when you trade away your face of the franchise when you have a chance at making the playoffs? Players want to make the playoffs. This should be an extreme red flag for the Orioles' newer ownership, who has struggled to convert on what was supposed to be a promising core. I don't know how Mike Elias has this job. The Red Sox definitely overpaid, but they're definitely going for it now. They're the hottest team in all of baseball. They seem to have figured it out. They went from one of the worst records in the MLB to fighting to have the second best record in the American League. That's pretty crazy. And now the Red Sox are going to add one of the best two-way catchers in the game from a division rival. You overpay a little bit, but you were competing with other teams, and you're causing misery for a division rival. Not the Yankees, but the Orioles and Red Sox are still somewhat rivals. And now you send a fan base that was already in misery and the deeper misery, and maybe the Red Sox fans can take some solace in that. But it's one of the main weak points of the Red Sox that will now no longer be weak, assuming Adley Rutschman, when he is healthy, avoids a fourth trip to the injured list. Casey Mize to the Padres. The Padres not in playoff position, but as always, they decide they're going to go for it at the trade deadline, not trade Mason Miller. They have those aging veterans, but they go out and get Casey Mize from the Tigers, who is another very good pitcher. Tigers selling a lot. They have got a decent return. Casey Mize, I like the move, shoring up the Padres rotation. Foster Griffin to the Guardians. I think it's a dumb trade for the Nationals. The Nationals are not that far off from competing, in my opinion. And Foster Griffin is maybe their most reliable pitcher, and he's still early in his career. Guardians made a good move to get him. I don't think the Nationals got enough in return. But the Guardians, one of those teams, they can still win the Central. They can still get the last wild card spot. So the move makes sense to try and bolster their starting rotation. Kevin Gossman to the Cubs. The Cubs are another team that were looking for starting pitching help the entire trade deadline, and they got it in Kevin Gossman, a guy who has been good. He's going to raise the floor of every rotation he's in. He has plenty of postseason experience. He was with the Blue Jays in their run to the World Series last year. I love that move for the Cubs. Luis Arias to the Phillies. I like that, bringing some on base, some batting average, helping them out offensively, helping them set the table, getting more guys to help Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber. Yes, I'm a little bit worried about them defensively and their positioning and how they have to rotate guys around. But overall, I like the move for the Phillies. Luis Garcia to the Yankees, there's not an obvious spot for him. He's going to find playing time. Maybe he's a platoon at first base. The Yankees want help offensively. They have a good bullpen. They have a great starting rotation. They're still dealing with some injuries offensively as well, and they're going to need to be healthy to make a run. But Luis Garcia is having an incredible year in what has been an incredible Nationals offense. Good move. This move by the Nationals I actually liked. Luis Garcia should help the Yankees immediately. And like I said, he's already having a fantastic season as a left-handed batter. He should help the Yankees out quite a bit. Jose Soriano to the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays did a good job of threading the needle, a little bit of buying, a little bit of selling. Jose Soriano will help them this year if they find a way to back into the playoffs. And he's under control for multiple years after. So good move by the Blue Jays to lock up the former Angels pitcher who had an incredible start to the year, still has good numbers, did drop a little bit. Good move by the Blue Jays. Clay Holmes to the Cubs. Even more help to that pitching staff, starting pitching staff. He's also somebody that has bullpen experience. Cubs really trying to load up on pitching and shore up the staff in general, really, for the postseason run. And I like the move. Clay Holmes should be back soon anyway to help them do so. And then Luke Weaver to the Pirates. Unfortunately, I don't think the Pirates are making the playoffs after some developments I'll talk about later, but it was a great job to shore up the bullpen. That's one of the main areas of need they had, and Luke Weaver helps them do that. And I like Luke Weaver as a relief pitcher. It may not be as helpful now with some of the injuries on the Pirates, but they're not out of it yet. It was good to see the Pirates buying for once, and I'll leave it at that. Now that you have the biggest trades, I'm going to move into the standings. Let's start with the American League up top. In the American League East, the Rays still have the number one overall seed, still leading the division by quite a bit. Gotta like the Rays' chances at getting that number one overall seed in the American League East. The American League East also has the second and third best records, which means the American League East has the three best teams in the American League and two more teams that are fighting to try and make the wild card. The Yankees have been second behind the Rays for months now, and the Red Sox are the hottest team in baseball. They've gone from last in this division to a very comfortable third. It certainly seems like the Yankees and Red Sox are on a collision course in that wild card spot in the 4-5 game. Sucks when the three best teams in a league are all in the same division because it means that the 1, the 4, and the 5 will all go on the same side of the bracket, and the other side of the bracket is going to give some middling teams a chance to make a championship series. But that's where the East is, and I don't think the Yankees or Red Sox can catch the Rays without the Rays completely falling apart as they are 6 and 8 games back. And then you still have the Orioles and Blue Jays just separated by a half a game. They've been just below 500 all year, it feels like, and they just can't get their head above water, but they're still in the wild card hunt. In the Central, the pesky White Sox, I liked them at the beginning of the year. I didn't think they were going to win the division, and I keep on saying they're not going to, but they're still in first place with a record of 61 and 56, currently in the 2 seed. But the Twins and Tigers are both only 3.5 games back, right on their heels, and the Guardians are only 4. All 4 of those teams are going to be competing for the division and a wild card spot, I think, pretty much the rest of the year. Then you have the Royals, who have been playing better as of late, but they're bad. They had one bad month in reality that has doomed them. They are 13.5 back, and they're pretty far back of the wild card as well. In the West, and they are doing it again. The Astros, with an awful start, have made it all the way back to first in a middling American League West. They're only a half a game up on the Rangers, but they were way back, not that, just 2 months ago. And now the Astros have made it back to first place. Can the Astros continue the hot run with the MVP frontrunner on their team? They made some moves at the deadline to suggest they're going to continue to go for it. Let's see if they can get the second or even third seed. The Rangers, who were winning this division not too long ago, have been struggling a little bit, but they just picked up a big series win. They're only a half a game back and currently have the last wild card spot. You have the Mariners, who have really sunk like a rock. They were leading this division. They were above 500 and now 7 games under, and I think ninth in the wild card race. They're pretty far back. They're not out of it, but the Mariners have just been sputtering. They did buy at the deadline. They're going to have to get it turned around fast. I don't know if that's possible, though. I don't know if this offense has it for the Mariners, especially with the decline. Albeit, while it was a predictable slide, maybe not predictable how much of a slide it's been. But without Cal Riley figuring it out, I don't think they're going to have the offense to get back into things. The A's had that awful losing streak that has put them all the way at 47-72. They were multiple games over 500 to start the season and were looking good, and they have just gotten worse and worse. Obviously, Nick Kurt's injury has not helped. They are out of it, and so are the Angels, who are potentially the worst team in the American League. They do have the worst record at 45-74. Over to the National League. In the East, the Braves still have a comfortable lead. They have Acuna back. They are back up to 7.5 games after a rough beginning to the summer. The Phillies closed up the gap, but the Braves have widened it back out. Speaking of the Phillies, they're second place still at 7.5 back, but still 8 games over 500 and looking good for a wild card spot. Marlins are back over 500. The Marlins are the never-ending roller coaster ride this season. Really bad, really good, really bad, really good. Not a whole bunch of in between. They sold at the deadline. They're still a game over 500, 11 back of the Braves. The Nationals are still hanging 2 games below, 2 games above, right at 500. They're 12.5 back of the Braves, but still in the wild card race. And the Mets dug themselves too deep of a hole, but they are playing better as of late. They're not going to win the division. They're probably not going to get a wild card spot either, but they have been playing better as of late. Again, just too deep of a hole to dig out of, 53-67. The team with the best record in the MLB, the Milwaukee Brewers, are leading the NL Central at 74-45. They have been playing lights out. They made some moves to buy. They didn't buy everybody they wanted. They were definitely in the mix for a lot of names, but they still made some upgrades. I still am worried about them in the playoffs, but they have just done so good the last couple of seasons of being very good in the regular season and putting themselves in a good position for the playoffs. The Brewers are a team that has held serve with the Brewers. The last time I did an update, the Cubs were 5 games back. They are still 5 games back and have the 4th best record in the Central. They're comfortable for a wild card spot. The Cubs, 69-50, seem to be the next team that is going to hit 70 wins on the season. Again, made a lot of moves to buy. I think this Cubs team is going to be scary in the postseason. I don't know if they're going to be able to win the division, but I don't think anybody wants to see them either. And then at the bottom of the Central, you have 3 teams fighting for a wild card spot that have been, well, the Cardinals and Pirates especially have been hovering around 500 all year. The Reds started off hot, had a really bad stretch, and now they're hot again. The Cardinals at 59-60, they sold some. I don't think the Cardinals are a serious postseason threat. The Pirates are down to 58-62. Big injury to Ryan O'Hearn. O'Neal Cruz has been on the injured list. Paul Skeens having the worst season of his career, but they're still kicking. If they can get some guys healthy, get Paul Skeens to figure it out, this Pirates team can make a charge at the wild card. And with their starting pitching staff, you have to think no team wants to see them in the playoffs. And the Reds getting hot at the right time. They are at 56-61. And in the National League West, the Dodgers are deep on the struggle bus despite all the talent they have. They do have some injuries. They should have depth to be okay, though. Dodgers at 71-48. still leading the West, but their cushion has lessened. But that shows you how much of a cushion that they had for them to be on an extending losing streak and still be up by 7.5 games. The Diamondbacks, a team that I've liked all year, they're starting to put it together. Are 8 games over 500, which is the most they've been in a long time. Diamondbacks at 64-56. I like this Diamondback squad of it. I said earlier on in the year I liked them despite the record, and they seem to be figuring it out. I don't think they're going to be able to run down the Dodgers, but they have to like their chances at a wild card spot. The first team out of a wild card spot, the Padres, only 1 game out at 63-57. They bought. The Padres are going to be scary. There's 7 teams that are at least 6 games over 500 in the National League that deserve to be in the playoffs, and one of them will miss compared to the American League, where there's a lot of teams with losing records that are currently sitting right near the playoffs. 2 very different leagues at this point in the season. It's been that way all year. The Padres, though, definitely making some moves, trying to get into the playoffs. And again, they're only a game out. It could very well happen, but they are going to have to. I mean, the Diamondbacks are probably their best chance at catching up, and the Diamondbacks have been looking great lately. So, not an easy road ahead for them. And then 2 of the worst teams in the major leagues, especially with how bad the Giants have played as of late. Both were sellers, both looking towards the future. You have the Giants at 49-70 and the Rockies at 46-73, the 2 worst records in the National League. If you haven't figured out, it's quite busy wild card standings each. The National League, I did expand all the way to 6.5. By the next update, these lists will definitely be shrinking. All of these are teams that I give a greater than, I don't know, like enough of a chance where it's plausible to make it, even if it's not likely. As you see in the American League, I think the Red Sox and Yankees probably feel good about their odds. It's really down to that last spot. And there is 7 teams within 4 games of the last wildcard spot in the American League, plus 2 divisions where they're not really decided and they're pretty close where anybody can win it. Right now, the Rangers make up the last spot in the American League. But their offense has struggled at times, and that could come back and get them. I mean, you're in all of these wildcard teams in the American League, the Rangers, the Twins, the Tigers, the Guardians, the Orioles, the Blue Jays, the Mariners, all have some good players, all have some strengths, but all have some big gaps and holes. I don't know how much damage they'll do if they get in. There is 1 or 2 teams in the American League that I think if they make the wild card, I think they can do damage. But largely, they're here for a reason, right? They have some holes in their team. The Rangers were trying to be buyers at or sellers at the deadline, and kind of not really worked out. And they're there right now. The Twins, I don't really have a lot of faith in. They've kind of been a 500 team all year, and maybe they sneak in, but I don't think they can do anything if they do get in. I don't think they have enough offensive depth at all. The Tigers are one of those teams I think could be scary if they get in, and somehow, despite selling some of their best pitchers and having an awful start to the season, because the American League has been so bad, they are only a game and a half back, and they're playing their best baseball of the season. If that bullpen can just be average, I think the Tigers have a real chance. The Guardians, I've liked all year to get a wild card spot. They need to get their offensive act together. They bought, so you have to think the expectation is they make the playoffs. The Orioles are kind of an embarrassment of a franchise, or so I've heard from the fan base. It's definitely not a good look trading the guy that was the face of the franchise for them and started the rebuild. They're 3 games back, but their offense has been anemic. They've had a really good starting staff, especially since the start of June. Their starters have been playing excellent, but they sold off some of their more veteran guys that were supposed to help the team, and their offense cannot consistently produce runs. Orioles are still technically in the fight, but unless Gunnar Henderson figures out how to be Gunnar Henderson again, I don't think they have a chance. The Blue Jays, I don't think, have a chance either. And the Mariners, I think, have enough talent, but I don't know. They're running out of time. And in the National League, much different story. Multiple, 4 good teams that are deserving of getting the wild card in the National League. Very different story. The Cubs are 5.5 up unless they struggled to end the year. The Cubs should be good. I like the Cubs. I think they're going to make it in. And then you have this battle between the Diamondbacks, the Phillies, and the Padres. I really think the last two spots are going to two of those three teams. They're the best three teams in the wild card hunt. They're starting to separate from the rest of the league. And I just think they're the best three teams. They've been playing the best. Who makes it out of the Diamondbacks, Phillies, and Padres is really who knows. They're separated by one game, but I feel 90% confident it's going to be one of those three teams, barring any significant injuries. And then the Marlins still have a winning record, still having a solid season, but they're 3.5 back, and they sold. Stowers is hurt. I don't like the Marlins odds. The Cardinals are a young, fun team. I don't love their odds. The Nationals sold at the trade deadline. They don't have enough consistency pitching, and James Wood is out. I don't like the Nationals odds. Pirates have too many injuries. I think if they're healthy, they have some of the better odds to make it up, but they're already 6 games back. That's a big gap and a lot of teams to jump. And then the Reds, I think, have too much of a hole to dig out of. They had a great start to the season, but the Reds couldn't keep it going, and I don't see it being possible for them to catch up. So now that I've showed you the wild card races, talked about some of these teams, you see the division leaders. Let's get into what I predict the postseason bracket to look like. I have been predicting the Yankees to run down the Rays. I just think that they're too many games back with too much time left. The Rays, I might call them regular season merchants, but I think they're going to get the number 1 seed, which sets up an appetizing Yankees-Red Sox wild card series. That's going to be absolutely electric. Quite frankly, I think it's a crime that's happening in the first round. I think the Red Sox and Yankees are the 2 best teams in the American League, but they will see each other in the wild card round. The 3 best teams in the American League are all on the same side of the bracket. And here, at the important piece of this is the bottom piece. I have the Astros hanging on to win the West. I think the Tigers are going. I think they're playing their best baseball. I like that. The Central is just a mess. I want to say the Guardians. I am going to double down and say the White Sox are going to have an extended losing period at some point to allow the rest of the division to catch up. Tigers are just playing so well. I have the Tigers winning that division, and then I have the Rangers holding off the White Sox and the Guardians for the final wild card spot. However, while I think the Tigers can win their division, I think their bullpen's going to let them down in the postseason. I think the Rangers find a way to make it through. And then we have our second rivalry matchup in the American League bracket with the Astros beating the Rangers. And then we have the Yankees, and we have another Yankees-Astros American League Championship Series that I have the Yankees winning. If they're healthy, I think they are the best team in the American League. And then the National League, lots of good teams. And as you can see, I usually love to pick the Padres on this channel. If you've been around before, you know that. But I have the Padres missing. I like the Diamondbacks a little bit more. And I like the Cubs to keep that top wild card spot. I've been saying I think they can run the Brewers down, but the Brewers look too good. I have the Dodgers and the Brewers having a close battle for the 1 spot. If the Dodgers wait too much longer to get back to their winning ways, the Brewers are going to be too far gone. But for now, it's still possible. I think the Dodgers get the 1 seed and play the winner of the Cubs and the Phillies. I think the Brewers get the 2 seed and play the winner of the Braves and the Diamondbacks. And if you put any one of these 6 teams in the American League, I think that they could definitely win the American League. But unfortunately, they're all in the National League, which means some will go home in the first round. I like the Cubs barely edging by the Phillies to play the Dodgers in round 2. I like the Braves in an awesome 3-game series to beat the Diamondbacks. I like the Braves and their postseason experience. I think that healthy Braves team is going to get by the Brewers. I think the Cubs, the way the Dodgers are playing right now, it has not given me confidence. The Cubs have who I believe is the front runner for MVP. Great center field defense, great infield defense. They have enough offense. They bolstered their pitching staff. I think the Cubs squeak by the Dodgers, giving us Chicago versus Atlanta in the championship series. And I think the Cubs are going to get by purely on the strength that they had much better additions at the trade deadline, getting the Cubs to the World Series, where I have them playing the Yankees, and I have the Cubs winning. They're just a little bit healthier. I think they're a little bit better defensively, but these teams are incredibly close. Yankees pitching staff, I would say, is a little bit better. I just think the Cubs are playing good baseball. Again, reminder, I have changed who I have winning the World Series about every single month. These are supposed to be reactive to what's currently happening in the MLB. And right now, I like the way the Cubs are playing. I believe in them in the postseason. So I have them winning the World Series, which is, I think they're like the fourth team I've mentioned to do that. I do have a lot of faith in the Yankees as well, as they are the team I have most consistently had making it to the World Series out of the American League. And just to wrap up, I have started eliminating people out of award races. Um, I think my next update for the season ending stretch in September, I will go down to no more than 3 players at all of these. But the award favorites in the American League, it's really Yordan Alvarez is to lose. He's a huge favorite. He should be. I think Yordan Alvarez, I mean, he very well could win the Triple Crown, and he could win the Triple Crown not just the American League, but of the entire MLB. He deserves the MVP. Nobody's close. If he gets hurt, though, and misses a month, Junior Caminero should be right there. And I'm leaving Ben Rice here because you need your team to be good to win the MVP. Ben Rice has not been very good as of late. He's actually been really bad. I expected some regression for him, but maybe not that much. His name still deserves mentioning because the Yankees have been good. He's having a breakout year. And should something happen to the first two, he would be the favorite to take over that mantle, assuming he snaps out of this cold streak. In the National League, I have Schwarber and Abrams hanging around. They definitely deserve down ballot votes. I think they're third and fourth. But there's a lot of discussion about WAR. Just like every player evaluation method, WAR is not perfect. But Pete Crow Armstrong this year has been a more valuable to the Cubs than Shohei Ohtani has been to the Dodgers. I would argue Pete Crow Armstrong has been the single most valuable player to any team in the MLB this year. And this is the most valuable player. So I'm going to give it to Pete Crow Armstrong. I don't know what the voters are going to do. Maybe there's some voter fatigue and they will give it to PCA for that reason. But I think as it stands right now, Pete Crow Armstrong deserves the National League MVP more than Shohei Ohtani. And you can talk to me about how Shohei Ohtani is a pitcher. He's hurt. He's not pitching right now. And if you want to make that argument, well, Pete Crow Armstrong plays center field every day, and he's maybe the best defender in the entire league in one of the most difficult positions, one of the most important positions, and Shohei Ohtani doesn't do that. So the argument cuts both ways. Give me Pete Crow Armstrong for the NL MVP. The American League Cy Young, you can see I have, I want to mention guys like Parker Messick, Sonny Gray, and Drew Rasmussen. That's my 4-5-3. Those 3 guys should get down ballot votes. But really, it's a 2-man race right now between Cam Schittler and Dylan Cease, and I have Schittler barely edging out Dylan Cease right now, but there's still a lot to be decided. That's one of the closest races in the MLB right now to watch. In the National League, I mean, right now I think it's Jacob Mizorowski and nobody else. I mean, there's so many phenomenal years. Christopher Sanchez having a great year. Chris Sale, Zach Wheeler. I have Chase Burns at 5. All those guys are having good to phenomenal years. But Jacob Mizorowski looks darn near untouchable right now, and nobody else deserves an award more than him right now. Maybe Yordan Alvarez, but in my opinion, NL Cy Young and AL MVP are the 2 that are the most decided if this right now at this point in the season. And then in the American League, I think it's Kevin McGonigal, who has separated from Munetaka Murakami, but it's going to go to one of those 2 guys. There's plenty of good rookies in the American League, but a lot of them have gotten hurt or have missed stretches or haven't been up the whole year. Parker Messick having a great year for the Guardians. Travis Bazzana having a great year for the Guardians. Another guy on the Guardians having a great year, Chase DeLauder. Carter Jensen for the Royals, I think, has been great at a premium position. But it's Kevin McGonigal's to lose. In the National League, another really close race. It's really J.J. Weatherholt and Sal Stort. The Mets have their trio that's been really good. Benj McLean and Ewing. Benj and McLean are on my list. TJ Rumfield, if he was not playing for the Rockies, would be getting more love. But it's really between Weatherholt and Sal Stort. That's all I have today. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know your predictions in the comments below for anything I talked about today. Please take care of yourself. Take care of your family. It's a crazy world out there.